Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Well, good morning, everyone, and I hope you're having a wonderful spring morning, such that it is. But thanks for joining us again this morning for Faith in Our Hometown. A few weeks before Easter, I got on one of my soapboxes, and one of those soapboxes was, we sometimes as religious folks, or any of us that have a belief system, whatever it happens to be, whether it be political, religious, whatever, we sometimes hold a position, and sometimes we hold those positions very strongly. But sometimes I don't know that we always do ourselves a favor by the way that we present those positions. And I think that that's especially, I'm just going to take credit for doing that, as religion today, because, well, I can and I do. So my question was, why do we do the things that we do? And what are we trying to accomplish? And I wanted to talk to somebody in the community that I think does a brilliant job of walking the walk in a way that sometimes is so successful because it's able to get past people's fears. And that's the folks over at Life Choices. So my guest this morning is going to be Karolyn Schrage, who is the Executive Director at Life Choices. And we're going to be talking a little bit this morning about why we do the things that we do and how we go about it, because I think it makes all the difference in the world. So we're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. Don't go away.
It was silly to be so dreading it so much because it was really no big deal. There was no pain afterwards. I was really, really hungry, so I got to have whatever I wanted to have for lunch. But the rest of the day I just slept, and there was no pain, and went to work the next day. Every day that I opened up my refrigerator and saw that referral on my refrigerator, I just dreaded having to go through it. And now I just kind of laugh about it because it was no big deal. And knowing it's behind me, I just don't have to worry about it. Well, my husband and I, we do a lot of riding, and we kind of cram everything into the weekends, but eventually, we'd like to, once we retire, we want to be able to go on vacations on our bikes and go riding on weekends a lot more, so we have a lot to look forward to.
Well, again, welcome back to Faith in Our Hometown, or welcome if it's your first time. We always love new viewers. But my guest this morning is Karolyn Schrage, who's the Executive Director at Life Choices. And Karolyn, the reason why I wanted to invite you on is because I think you guys do a wonderful job at engaging people. Even people on the other side of an argument. You guys do, I think, a masterful job of bringing your passion, your ministry, and all those things to the table, but not chasing people away. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you this morning, because I think we need more of that in our world.
I agree. I think that it is imperative for, no matter what our position is, that we're providing that safe space where young men, young women can really unpack some of the confusion that they find in our world today, and to make it feel safe, and to also make sure that we have medically accurate information to provide what those choices may all be about.
Yeah, and I think that, I think, you and I come from similar backgrounds in terms of Christianity, and of course we hold our positions strongly, and I certainly come from a vantage point of, if I can help keep abortions from happening, I want to do that, and of course nobody ever comes to me thinking that I'm going to encourage them to do it anyway, but I just know that sometimes when I'm out fishing, if I make so much noise banging on the boat, I'm going to scare the fish away. Yeah. And so I think there's a way to hold your position and hold it strongly, but do so in a compassionate way, and to do so in a way that basically says, I can't make you do anything, but I'm going to tell you what I can do for you so that you can make whatever real choice you want to make, especially.
Well, and we live in a world where there is choice, and where there are legal choices. And we also know that we've been given freedom of choice. But I think it's important, we say the choice is yours, choose to know. Make it an informed choice. And I think that is something that we never should come at a perspective of thinking that we are walking in their shoes. or anybody else's shoes. We can only walk in our own shoes. But I think it's the kind of thing where we have to understand no one wakes up one day and says, oh, I think this week I want an abortion. Like, that's not where people come into us, but how we receive them can make all the difference in the world as to how they feel safe enough to even consider an alternative, and to make sure that we're looking at all the different options and giving them the opportunity to consider those.
Yeah, St. Vincent de Paul used to say, we've got to love everybody so much, and especially the poor, so much that they're going to forgive us when we give them their daily bread, you know? And so, I mean, for me, that's just always been a bit of a model that basically says, if I don't do what I'm doing with love, I lose all my compassion points. And if I lose my compassion points, why would anybody want to listen to what I'd suggest anyway?
And I think we have to come from the perspective, too, that it's not what we're against that motivates us, but it's the passion that we have that really allows us to say it's what we're for that gives us that compassionate stance. And we're for that safe family. We're for that unit. We're for walking alongside, not just in the moment, but how do we come alongside for the next year and the next year and the next year to come around with community and not just merely an edict in the moment of crisis.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess if I really did run the world, which I try sometimes, but it just never works out for me. But if I really did run the world, I'd make things work out, you know, a little different. But God gave us this free will thing, at least according to our belief system. And so we do have those choices. And if somehow we were going to get fried for making the wrong choice all the time, I guess we'd adjust on this side. I know some choices are, kind of have, ramifications further on. But I guess what I would just want to do is I just want to make sure that if somebody came to see me, again, I would want to stand up for life. But that life is not just the unborn life in the womb. That life is also that family in crisis that's in front of me, that woman, that man, that family that basically is saying, we don't even know what we want to do at this point in time. And how do we talk to them in such a way that that ultimately we're not telling them exactly what to do. Now, see, you're in a different part of the realm than I do. Many times they do come to me expecting me to tell them kind of what to do or what not to do. But I still have to do that in such a way that respects the fact that, I've even had to say to some of them, the fact is just like, I won't hate you, if you decide you're going to do this, but I can't really support that. What I can do is support you and help you figure out what you want to do, and I can help you, I've got resources for you, I've got all those things for you if you want to do this way,
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we want to talk instead of listening. And sometimes people, they just want to be heard. And if we'll listen, we often can find out, well, what are the barriers to making a choice that maybe has those long-term healthier consequences? So what are the words that we can listen first and really truly understand, and then know how to speak, and to speak that with love, without the shame factors, without the judgment, but just walk alongside to say, well, what would make you feel safer in this moment? And again, I think that there are so many times that it's seen as either black or white, and we know that there's a lot of gray that comes alongside to cushion where someone's at and really find out, is it financial resources? Is it family support? Is there no community that can come alongside and we can be that community for one another? And I think that's the beauty of having community together, is to be able to come alongside and support and make someone feel like they're not alone.
Yeah, and that's why I love, being able to send folks down the street if they wind up in that situation, because I know you have resources. I know that together, our resources, your resources, can kind of come together to provide that safety net for folks, to where they can feel like they're being supported in a moment of, for many of them, crisis.
Absolutely.
But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't think people wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, today seems like a good day to go do this." Because so many people even really don't want to go there, but they just don't feel like they've got any choice.
And I think so often we want to come at something from a fix-it perspective, and as a nurse, that's often where my go-to is. But are we really looking at all of these different symptoms and really getting to what is the basic premise? It's often a systemic issue, that loss of intimacy with our Creator that leaves these symptoms, whether that symptom is abortion or sexually transmitted infections or human trafficking. Like, we have the opportunity to systemically step in and provide that comfort.
Yeah, and I love being able to step in at those moments and just, accompany people along the way rather than push them around, The pushing around to me that's not worked for a long time.
I don't think it's really ever worked.
Well, I don't know. They keep telling me back in the 40s and 50s that was the job and I could push people around, but I didn't grow up that way.
Yeah.
Now I believe what I believe, and I behold those beliefs strongly, but I don't think just even telling people, well, this is the truth because it's the truth, and now you got to listen to me because I have the truth. That doesn't cut it anymore. I guess I've done campus ministry for way too long, 28 years. That in that context, people they might let me in the door with this if they're inclined, but that's not going to get them to listen to me if I can't be compassionate and I can't accompany, rather than just saying, all right, you got to do this, you have a choice and this is the way it's going to be. I can still tell them what I think without beating them up while I'm trying to share that.
And I think in our world there is that conflict of activism and advocacy, and like I said, there is a place for the activism. I mean, we know in the state of Missouri that legislative laws and people voting their values, it does make a difference. But there can't be that dual system in the crisis moment to affect that individual that's sitting in front of you. They don't care about laws, they don't care about regulations. They just want someone to be with them in that moment. And I don't think any war was won on a street corner with a placard as much as it was that gentle, soft, kind spirit that says, let me listen, let me hear.
Yeah, and I just know that from so many of my female students through the years who've come to me just to talk about it, not even when they were in the crisis themselves, but just coming to me to talk about that and say, why is the church, I had a friend who she just wouldn't come to talk to you because she was so afraid you were going to yell at her and tell her she was bad or horrible or evil or wrong. And that's just not where I come from. But my female students have told me all that, through the years of, that I couldn't get her to come to talk to you because she was just so afraid that was what she was going to receive.
And I think we find that sometimes we think that this is an issue that's outside of the church. But in fact, I think the shame factor that is often there tends to make it a hidden secret that is often not discussed and not made available from a more public stance to really reach out to those that are hurting. We know that 1 in 4 women who are sitting in a church have often been one of those individuals that's faced that unplanned pregnancy, and they're suffering in silence because the shame just daunts them and keeps them in that seclusion. And we've got to be at a place that we're helping to love through whatever. And there's such great resources that, if a woman finds themselves, they don't have to proclaim it from the stage, but there is healing and there is hope. And I think that's what we want to do.
Well, we're going to be right back after a quick break. Don't go away.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
Well, again, thanks for sticking with us this morning. My guest this morning, Karolyn Schrage, who's the Executive Director of Life Choices. And this morning we're kind of trying to talk about how do we do what we do? And what's our philosophy in going about it? Because again, just telling everybody that we think this is the position isn't necessarily going to win hearts or influence people, especially our younger people, because, I guess in the good old days, somebody could have just said, you do this, you're going straight to hell. But most of our folks don't necessarily buy that anymore.
Yeah, and I love the quote that says, don't judge me by the chapter you walked in on. And I think so often we choose to step in when someone's in a crisis and we want to judge them right there. But we have the opportunity sometimes to help them with the next chapter and to really envision and allow God's transforming power to step in and make that story turn out different by how we respond with them in that crisis, not at them, but with them. And I think that's where resources are so important. And I know the Catholic Charities, and I know, Life Choices, people come alongside. We've got great community partners with Southwest Missouri Alliance, and there's parenting classes that can come along and support. I know sometimes we tend to think, oh, it's our college demographic that really are the ones most at risk for an abortion. But really, it's those young women that maybe already have 1 or 2 children and their financial resources are difficult, or, they don't have a job. I mean, we saw kind of a spike in those that were seeking abortions because of the COVID pandemic. Like, we can't get jobs, we can't get out, we can't take care of the kids we've got. Why on earth would we add another one? Well, it's
that pressure.
Yes,
it's just that pressure that just keeps coming.
I think we have to understand that no one wants an abortion. But when that time comes, how can we break down some of those barriers? And sometimes it's a simple thing by just saying, hey, there's parenting classes. Sometimes those classes can come alongside a parent to give them the tools to reduce the chaos that sometimes happens with a house full of little ones. So whether it's parenting classes, whether it's diaper resources that, those all add up. Can we get them connected to financial tools to get onto WIC or to get onto, many of the different resources that are there and available, especially for young moms and young dads that are scrambling to make life work. And we can be the community that comes around. And I think sometimes we think, oh, well, let's leave it to Life Choices or let's leave it to Father Jay. No, we're all responsible for coming alongside and being that extra grandparent or being that person that offers to watch the kids so that a mom gets a break. It's being in community with those that are your neighbors.
Yeah, and that sense of community, that sense of family, I think is so important. That we offer that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why people come in to talk anyway, is because they don't know who to talk to, they don't know who to connect with, they don't know what resources are available, and that sense of community can help bridge those gaps and connect them.
I think our society also would say that it's not a baby, it's not a life, and so we have the opportunity to be able, through incredible scientific methodology, to show that window into a womb through an ultrasound. And when people are willing to step in with their medical services and volunteer, like, we're so fortunate to have the medical community in our area step in with OBGYN services to come on site and do those prenatal consultation, to be right there to assess the ultrasounds that we're providing, to provide the testing that's needed, to get that early access to prenatal care so that there can be healthy outcomes if there is someone who's fearful about a diagnosis that maybe is controversial. So having that, again, that team of people that really care, physicians, nurses, CNAs that say, hey, I want to step up and make a difference. I want to volunteer to come alongside. That's huge in our world, to really tap into people that are already compassionate but want to take it to the next level, to say, what can I do? Let me be a part of having a culture of life, of having a culture of abundant life.
Yeah, and again, when you start talking about those things, I mean, that is what I think we're supposed to be about. That is the culture that we're supposed to do, that rather than the culture of limitation, the culture of death, the culture of deprivation, the culture of all those things. We can talk about life, and we can talk about abundance, we can talk about accompaniment. Those are just much more fun than talking about the other stuff. It's
Yeah.
much more fun to preach about that rather than to, go from the other direction. And I think it's just more appealing in terms of the sense of that. So let me just ask, we don't always get a chance to do this, but what if people wanted to help right now, Life Choices, what might be some of the volunteer opportunities that you have available?
There's a lot of ways to take your gifting and to match it with community. Whether you want to be a parenting teacher, a parenting class teacher, whether you want to come alongside, single moms and want to know how to offer something in your church. There are areas in the community that we can refer to that walk alongside single moms. We do the diaper drives and the baby wipes so that every time an individual finishes a module, and there's even parenting classes online, they can complete that, they can get diapers and wipes. So if you're in Target, you're in Walmart, you see an extra case of diapers, pick one up and drop it off, because that's a way to support life, is to make sure that we're keeping the little ones fed and clothed. And we have the resources, especially at Christmas, where people jump in and bring exchange ornaments, so that they're doing clothes and items that are baby shower gifts.
Yeah.
The baby bottles where people put their change in, that's a very practical way.
And these are these are programs that if you have a church community that's never done anything like that, and you're on the women's council or the men's council or whatever, and you want to do those things, they've got the resources to help you set it up and to do it and to do all those things. You don't have to start from scratch necessarily.
Or you can be like my mom, who knits, crochets, and does amazing gifts of love and kindness just through tangibly using her hands to create things that new mom is just so blessed by, because somebody cared enough to take the time to knit a blanket or to quilt a blanket and to say, this is for your little one. So there's lots of practical ways. If you're a physician, if you're a nurse, if you're in the medical community and you're willing to come in and volunteer your time in our clinics, we have a clinic in Carthage, we have a clinic in Joplin, just give me a buzz and come down and be a part of a team that cares about life and doesn't just care about what is stated as far as any kind of agenda. That's not what we're about. We're really about that culture of love.
Yeah. And again, you can accomplish the other thing if you just stay about love.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, again, why I wanted you on the show today, because I think you guys do a wonderful job of that. You really do. I've often said that if we didn't have Life Choices in town, well, then we'd have to start one. We'd have to do something, a birthright, something to do some of the things that you're doing. But everybody just says, well, do you need one of those in Joplin? I'm like, no, we don't need one of those in Joplin. We've got people who are doing it, and they're doing it well. And they're doing it, I think, the same way I would hope that we would be doing it if we were the ones that had to do it because you weren't there. So keep doing what you're doing and stay there and keep, because I just think, like I say, how we do and how we say what we believe is just as important as what we say. Yeah. We can't talk about love and supporting people and walking with them in a non-judgmental way if we don't model that.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, we're in trouble.
And I think it's all about gospel whispering, not Bible bashing. And I think that's where we come alongside, is to just be the whisperers, to give that hope, to give that belief, and to paint a bright future of what it can be.
Yeah. So, real quickly, I know you've been talking to me a little bit about trafficking when we weren't on the air, so I do want to have you back soon to talk a little bit about trafficking. But just can you give us a little minute, just kind of preview of some of the things that our viewers might want to be aware of?
I think it's really important to understand that trafficking, like we see on movies Taken, that's not always what it is in our community. But are we aware of it? Mm-hmm. Are we aware of how our children are such at risk because of cyber safety issues? How many single moms are very at risk because they're just trying to provide for their children and they're enticed and they're trapped? And it happens. Sure. And it happens so often. And I can't tell you how many times we're identifying it as individuals are coming in because we know that there's a high rate of forced abortions among that demographic. And so what we do on a daily basis ties right into where we can do our victim services and come alongside law enforcement to, again, provide that culture of love and that culture of life.
Yeah. Again, Karolyn, I just want to say thanks for coming and being on the show again. It's been a while, and we will get this trafficking thing done in the next couple months, because I really do want to help folks to focus on that a little bit more. But we're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. Don't go away.
Blessings and greetings of mercy to you. My name is Anna Nichols. I am a Sister of Mercy and currently the leader of Heritage and Spirituality at Mercy International Association. I love the fact that sisters throughout time have gone where they have been called to go, and they have often picked up ministries that they never intended to pick up. 25 years ago, there were 22,000 Sisters of Mercy globally. Today we're down to about 6,200 with Sister Rock and some of the others. But despite the fact there are 6,500 or 6,200 sisters left, there is an amazing number of women and men of mercy who are working alongside us, and that continues to expand and expand, and for me that is incredibly exciting. So as far as National Catholic Sisters Week, I really look at the legacy that they have passed on and the fact that so many women, men, young people are living mercy today. That really is for me what's significant.
Well, I'm always edified when one of my friends in this community comes on and has a conversation with me about things that I think are really important. And certainly, I think that many of us want to proclaim a gospel of life, if you will, but also a gospel of love. And sometimes we don't sound very loving when we're banging the drum for the life. And one of the reasons why I'm always so impressed with Life Choices is because they can do both at the same time. And that impresses me. It impresses me a lot. Sometimes men in black and bishops who wear mitres are not always as good at it. But we have a wonderful group with Karolyn and her companions and co-workers over at Life Choices. If it's something you want to support, please figure out a way to be involved and proclaim that. But again, my thanks to all those at Life Choices. I hope you have a great Sunday, and come back and see us again for Faith in Our Hometown.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.